continuing that fight even before there was a law. So even when the law is not enforced the way it should be, or if it's not right, we're going to always fight to make it right. And it is to equal the playing field. And so that's our job. We work with the city of St. Louis, with St. Louis County. We work in 3 counties in Illinois: St. Clair County, Madison County, and Monroe County, Illinois. And we take the opportunity to listen. People call us up and they let us know, hey, I used to be married to this guy, and I can tell you he's a real booger. He's been excluding African Americans from his apartment buildings for years and years, and this is how he does it. And then those people tell us everything, and we'll go in and test to see if that's true, and then we'll bring a case, typically with the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, or we'll go straight to federal court. And we've had numerous of those. In fact, in Illinois, we've had several cases where the property manager says, "X, if they move into my apartments, I'm the right to move out, so that's why I don't put them there." And so we've caught the guy 3 times, and he says he'll just pay every time because he doesn't want to break up he doesn't want his white people to leave. And it's cost him to the tune of $100,000 every time we catch him. But he said he'd rather pay that $100,000 every 5 years that we catch him than he would to actually give the opportunities to African-American families to live in his 3 or 4 bedroom units where there's transportation and bus lines. He doesn't want to do that. He's going to continue to segregate them. Isn't that something?
Well, that's unfortunate because right now, we get more and more and more. I'm a developer myself, but I found out during that time period that there are most development takes places around transportation hubs. So when you mentioned there where transportation, close to highways, rail systems. I said the light rail, the highways, and the bus systems like that. But that's how you can afford the housing. You get back and forth to go to work.
Right.
A decent highway. And so now to be excluded from those houses, and and to pay $100,000, that shows you you're making money. Evidently.
Right.
So don't mind paying $100,000. So it's no big deal. He's making some serious dollars. Okay.
Yes, absolutely.
But not having said it, okay, I'm glad that's in Illinois, not in Missouri, in St. Louis area. But you mentioned some cases here in St. Louis, and one of the cases, this is like a blanket apology just came out sometime last month from the women from that's actually from St. Louis Real Estate Association. They an apology, for their racist thing they did going back, back to the early 1900s. There was a book that came out called Massive Decline that kind of was a study, about the St. Louis housing market, because people are not aware most of the housing laws, discrimination came out of St. Louis. We were St. Louis and St. Louis was one of the biggest ones in the country for many years.
Right,
and so people we set the standard, we set the bar, okay? And so now going back to the 1900s, there's a book came out called Mapping Decline. Mapping, M-A-P-P-I-N-G, Decline. Now, I tell people they can't get that book. And I got it, friend of mine, Ryan Johnson, John Danforth, he was with him, a guy named Les Stern. We all know him from being out in Gateway Council, working, with all the counties in the metro area. And I got the book, we were thinking how to find a solution, to the problem. All I did is find out how bad the problem was.
Yes, exactly.
And since being who I am, I called the president of the Realtors at that time, get him under his name. I wouldn't say I get his name, the president of the Realtors. He's a friend of mine. And I called Fred to my office and showed him some interest in the book. He said, "Oh my God, this is bad. This is bad." I said, "Yes." Me, I'm not reacting off, Fred. I'm just joking, okay? I said, "But you said that's And man, so that goes back 15, 20 years ago.
Yeah.
And now the Realtors just now apologized at least 15 years ago.
Yeah, that's right.
About this, and now they want to come up with a 3-year plan. And by the way, sometime next month, we will have the president of the we need to join us on our program here to answer that question. How can you come up with a 3-year plan that can erase over 100 years of racism? Give me a break. So anyway,
Yeah.
James John is coming out for you. So tell us a little bit about how you got chicken away at that. Tell us about that.
Well, I tell you what, our president of the board for the last at least 15 years has been Nate Johnson. He's a real estate agent, independent owner and broker as well.
I know that.
And he has assumed various leadership positions, not just locally, but statewide and nationwide. And he has really done a lot to bring the St. Louis real estate market up to speed with respect to its practices and its influence on policies. And without his influence over the years, I can tell you that this wouldn't have happened either. Nate Johnson was a big, I'm telling you, it's the African Americans within the real estate industry who understand how difficult it is even today dealing with these types of attitudes and policies that have been implemented that no one's ever really challenged. And so they have made a real stake. Nate Johnson, Gail Brown, whose father was Elisha Brown, and absolutely.
Pioneer.
And she's also on our board, and she's also been very influential in help. And there's other African American realtors as well, and there's allies within the real estate industry who really understand the necessity. So they've been hard at work at it. We've been on the fence with them for about 10 years, fighting different municipalities who have tried to pass different ordinances to exclude African-American heads of household women from being able to rent houses in places like Florissant, Maplewood, with their children. And they call them their exclusionary zoning practices that they're trying to adopt. And they're very onerous. And
they have those covenants in a lot of places.
Some of them still have the covenants in the deed. That's exactly right. And so we've actually filed several lawsuits alongside of the realtors, which is huge because my first 10 years of working at EI, the realtors were the hardest, were the roughest fight we'd ever have with anytime we were on the opposite side of a policy with the realtors. And in the last 10 years, because of the influence of Nate Johnson and Gail Brown within the industry and other professionals who are allies, they have been on the side with us. And that is a huge change on their part. So this apology actually comes after the groundwork has been laid for more than 10 years of getting the real estate professionals in the St. Louis market to understand that money should be green, not black or white. And so that's a huge step on their part. And even though the 3-year plan might not seem like much, I want to ask you, what other real estate association in the United States of America got any plan or even issued apology? You know what I'm saying? Who haven't even recognized it?
First of all, I'm happy to know that there's some recognition of it. First of all, you can't fix a problem. You know you got a problem, and then you address the problem.
Exactly.
And then you can know what I'm saying. You go to the doctor now and say, I'm aware that I have some issues here, and that I'm willing to deal with those issues. And so that's why I commend them for doing that, because that's a step. With us being the standard bearer for the country, okay, I'm hoping and praying that this will go to other cities, I would say, and do likewise.
Exactly. And the other thing too is one industry affects the other. Mm-hmm. And one of the things I can tell you is that the real estate industry sets the standard for a lot of other industries.
Oh my God.
And one of the things we know in St. Louis, if you're looking to buy a property north of Delmar, more likely than not, when that bank orders that appraisal, they're going to get an appraisal company that's going to find a way to only look north of that property that's north of Delmar, not in a 360-degree circle that would include south of Delmar. And those banks that are doing those things, that are using appraisal companies, should be ashamed of themselves. The community needs to rise up and say, any bank that says yes to appraisal, that orders appraisal from companies that only look north on Delmar, that don't actually do a good job of allowing the value to match the quality of the housing, is a shameful thing. And the banks are complicit in that, as well as the appraisal companies. I can tell you that for the last 10 years in our office, there's been a consistent pattern that any person of color trying to get an appraisal for a refinance or a purchase of a home or sale of a home, If it's north of Del Mar or North City or North County, and the appraisal company is coming out of St. Peters or St. Charles County, that 9 times out of 10, it is a problem. It is a bad appraisal. There's missing pictures. It's the wrong property. There's the values only looking north. I mean, it's a bad deal.
Well, most of all, these are drive-by appraisals. You know what I'm saying? You know, right now they probably use Zillow and places like that to kind of just look at the neighborhood and see what's down there. Because they don't want to go in the neighborhoods. You know,
the appraisal gonna go up when the white folks move back in the neighborhoods. Watch it.
Yeah,
that's what they waiting on. That's why they praise it. They looking praised by the people, the color of your skin.
And what you're saying proves out to be true quite a bit. It proves out to be true quite a bit.
You know, Will, right now, we have a new mayor in town, Mayor Tashara Jones, and one of the agencies in St. Louis that's been integral part of this problem that we have had here in the development agency. And in there are a lot of agencies that under that umbrella, that did a damn good job, of making sure that red mining, that is taking place. You know what I'm saying? When I did my development, I had to fight with them day in and day out. Right. Just to build about 25 homes, They told me, well, you're not going to build a house for a 150-foot lot. That's not city code. I said, well, no. People want more space. You can't. That's not saying no. You ain't gonna do it. We built 3, and so on and so on. But now, having said that, to my knowledge right now, that's the only development in North St. Louis now that had that kind of design. Am I right?
Yeah.
And that, like I said, that was a fight. And my partners, my cousin, Ted Hudson, and my wife. They did a great job of selling the houses and stuff, And those homes right now are still state-owned homes in the North St. Louis.
Right. Exactly.
As a matter of fact, that neighborhood on Delmar Valley right now is called Central West End North, which is 20 was the ghetto.
Right.
Now, do they get a appraisal from us? Our house, I doubt it very seriously.
One of the things we do. That's right. So, north of Del Mar, there's been some housing. I think there's some homes, brand new homes, and the evaluation of them most recently, houses that people paid $189,000 to get in. And other homes are appraising out at $250,000, $275,000, and the appraisals are coming out here and telling them now that it's worth only $168,000, that it's lost value. It's a brand new home. It's less than 6 years old. It's like, are you serious? Come on.
Yeah.
So if the appraisal companies and the banks are not going to have standards, then we're going to work together with the federal government to put some on, since they won't regulate themselves. And that's just what happens. A lot of people say, well, the government's the problem. It has been. But quite honestly, in St. Louis, if it wasn't for government action, we wouldn't have had a leg to stand on to make people do right in the first place. Because there's a lot of complicity in the city of St. Louis when it comes to, money likes money. And so nobody wants a new player when it comes to money.
Well, one of the things, let's kind of break down. We said real estate, Real estate, takes the electricians, it affects the carpenters unions, It affects the plumbers, who do that air conditioning, the appraisals. It affects so many different industries. It's unbelievable, but it's all types of real estate.
Exactly.
And that's why the real estate so goes the community. And I know right now your job, is knock on the doors that when I was raising Mary there for a reason, because right now she has a mandate that most major in St. Louis we have a boom, as Real was saying in the background recently, just a few minutes ago, that they're building apartment units all over the city, but they're all mostly north or south of Delmar.
Yeah.
And in the downtown area.
Yeah.
And now most of the areas right now are occupied by black folks. And so,
Right.
you know, and I hate to tell the black folks right now, enjoy while you're there, because right now when the rent's gonna go up, you can't afford it. And especially with the NGA plant coming into town, well, that's a multi-billion-dollar project there. That all those houses down there just was people were just thrown out. I understand only one person that actually stood their ground, and he eventually picked that house up and moved the whole house.
Right.
Wanted the land so bad. I mean, so there are people who try to fight, okay, but it's an uphill battle.
Very much so.
So right now, I guess we're going further here. Will, how can people get a hold of you? Because if you kind of buy a house, want to buy a house, or you have bought a house, or you try and get into an apartment someplace, they can call you. Am I right?
Absolutely, especially if they're having a problem with the appraisal. So our phone number is 314-534-5800. I'm going to say that again, 314-534-5800.
Well, I'm sure we did 3 times. You got one more.
And one more. 314-534-5800.
Also, do you have a website also? You have a website you can go to?
Yeah, it's ehocstl.org. ehocstl.org.
Sir, what's your phone number one more time, please?
EHOC.
No, phone number, please.
STL.org. And the telephone number is 314-534-5800.
Thank you.
Now, Will, let me ask you another question here, okay? If a person is considering buying a house, you know, and have dealt with some realtors, okay, that feel they want to deal with, you know, they have a thing called redlining, you know, that kind of, you know, show you, they point you where they want you to go. If you got a certain amount of money, okay, naturally, you know, we have a lot of blacks making a lot of money now. A lot of blacks we're moving to North St. Louis. That's another thing. We don't just have these communities in North St. Louis, okay. We have a lot of white families who want to be in a moving in the neighborhood. Who want to come back and build a home like you just said was better right there. But at the end of the day, you can't get a decent appraisal. You can't get your money for your investment back. You know, and that's a serious problem there. So right now, why don't you tell us a little bit about now? We were talking this week about you got to pick your fights right now, and you're dealing right now with a lot of the banks. So what are some of the issues that you're dealing with the banks right now?
Typically, it's stuff like you know, they're branching, right? In St. Louis, it's so segregated that pretty much every zip code shakes out to be black or white in St. Louis. And so when they don't have branches, they don't have loans, they're not doing much in those African American communities. Those are the banks that especially the community banks, right? We're not trying to get a huge bank like Bank of America to come and do more in a black community. I don't think that's necessarily good. I think what's good for us is having local banks with local products that service their own loans to be able to give these opportunities to people in African American zip codes.
Mm-hmm. You know, one of the things here in St. Louis, you know, you were just in Houston, okay, and they do a lot in the black community in terms of finances, sometimes your homes and stuff. Also, they do not just home finances, but they also do credit building. They also are part of the Missouri Chamber of Commerce. Also, I'm remiss in saying as well, I want to thank you also, Jason, for you also joining our organization also.
Absolutely.
So that is we're working with you, okay? But you just mentioned the banking industry right now. So how hard a fight is that right now for you come to the table?
Quite honestly, until we have an opportunity when they're trying to do a merger, or if they're up for review by the regulator, that's typically the only time we get their attention. Because at that point in time, the community has an opportunity to comment on the bank's performance. And we do. So anytime a bank's going to merge with another bank in the St. Louis metropolitan area and they meet our community standards, we're going to talk to them and look at the HMDA data, look at their market penetration in the African American community, look at their branching, look at their staffing. How many black CEOs? How many black African Americans in senior leadership? How many black people on the board? Especially if you're going to be serving these jurisdictions like North County and North City, right? Mm-hmm. We want to know what your makeup is. What's your connection to the community, really, our community? and we'll make comments about that. And if they want a good letter from us, from the regulator, as far as whether or not we're gonna say that we feel like this bank is meeting community standards on the CRA, then if they haven't already started to do those things, then we're gonna ask them to start to do so. And those are called community benefits agreements.
Okay, now let's digress. You mean the CRA? I was about to ask. Tell me what the CRA means.
It's a Community Reinvestment Act, and it was passed I'd say over 20 years ago. And
longer than that, a little longer. As a matter of fact, I used to be in another life of North African Preservation, and we were probably in the agency that handled most of the development in North Dakota in those days. And while I was chairman of the board, okay, I could be in a meeting of all the banks in St. Louis. We were 15 that time.
right,
All these mergers, okay. And I had nobody that would listen to vice president at the table. And I can introduce them to the reinvestment. That Muslim said, "What is that for?" Well, that's your report card because the money got put back into the community. He said, "For real?" Well, right now, I'm so happy to know now that is now something that they got to live by now. We have had so many mergers in the St. Louis area in the last 10 years. It's unbelievable.
yeah, that's right. In fact, Ira, when we first started doing this work, we looked at banks that took TARP bailout money in the St. Louis metro area, and we looked at their report card from the regulator.
What is TARP saying that you're doing this? What do those initials mean?
Man, you know what, Ira, this was money by the government. I can't remember exactly what the acronym means.
It was a government program.
Yeah, government program, taxpayer money going to the banks to bail them out because of 2008
That's what I'm talking about, right? Yeah.
crash. And so there was plenty of banks that took millions of dollars in the St. Louis area. And so we took a look at their rating by the regulator. And one thing we noticed consistently is that under their fair lending portion, there's like 5 tests: safety and soundness, fair lending, capitalization. There's a bunch of things that they're tested on. But one of them is on the fair lending, how they're following the laws, the Fair Housing Act, with respect to the way they're doing lending. And we saw numerous banks that had low satisfactory or unsatisfactory when it came to fair lending, but yet they still got a satisfactory or higher in their rating. And we were like, how could that be? So we took a closer look at those banks, and we found a problem with several of them. They had this donut hole where all African American zip codes were just skipped, right? No branches, no loans, nothing's going on. And that condition had existed for over 20 years. Nobody ever said anything about it.
Longer than that, really.
Absolutely. I mean, it's 20 years of us banks being able to go back and look at the records of it. So it had been going on for years and years and years. And it's like, why is nobody? So those banks we ended up bringing cases against with the Department of Justice and with HUD. And those were the first time we started doing work as a SLECRA, St. Louis Equal Housing Community Reinvestment Alliance. And we got a website. It's called SLECRA.org. But basically, we started taking banks to task. And now we do community benefits agreements with banks, basically offering our expertise to them about the things they need to do and come up to speed with respect to like home improvement loans for people who have houses in the city that just need to preserve the family's wealth by getting a porch on it or getting a roof on, right? A low interest alternative credits going so that we can keep family wealth, right? So things like that. There was a real lack of those kind of products in the city 10 years ago. But now we've got at least 4 or 5 banks that are providing these types of programs where you can get a loan that is not counted as a second against your house for $5,000 for 2.5% and pay it back in 5 years. A lot of people don't know that. And some of them you can get $10,000 for I think it's like 2.8%. And you can't find $10,000 anywhere. And they don't take a second on the house, right? It's personal loan.
Oh my God!
So there's Midland States Bank is offers a product like that. Midwest Bank, I think that Central Bank has a product like that. So and Simmons Bank has got a product like that. So we're talking at least 4 banks that we've worked with over the last 10 years that have come up with these products because there's been a need, but yet there had been a need and nobody ever asked the community what they wanted. So we are the voice of that community as far as what's needed. And so those products are out there right now. And
the banks you just named, okay, are mostly new banks to the St. Louis community, and they kind of bought out some other banks and stuff like that.
Absolutely, absolutely.
So right now, okay, if there's a merger taking place, okay, I'm so happy to see this because one of the things, okay, in North St. Louis, that I keep want to say the mayor right now has made a mandate. If you're doing some development anywhere downtown, anywhere in South St. Louis, you want a Central West End, you got to put some money, invest something into the north side. How's that going?
So I haven't had a chance to check in with the mayor on that. He got a couple of assistants, and actually, I'm on the books to meet with them to see how that's going. Mm-hmm. And once I find out, of course, we'll offer our assistance and help and move the ball along wherever we can. So I'm actually waiting. One of our board members actually is one of the works for the mayor, Dr. Vernon Mitchell, and so I'm supposed to be meeting with him, within the next week, trying to find out exactly how that's going. So I will check back in with you when I find out.
Oh no, we want a report card right now. As we go into the next year here, okay. One thing that we're working to do here, Scott, I'm sure that if you yet, okay, I want to get this on radio show, okay, because there's so much for them to talk about.
In actuality, I would be interested in having a radio show dedicated to the problems of real estate. And now that I'm a licensee, I can do that.
Yeah, right. Since you support the family now, but that's one thing that Will and I have talked about is we kind of, as the NASDAQ Chamber of Commerce is doing some beautiful things right now. I just give one, email you got for the NASDAQ, which you talked about later on the program. But right now, I think it's the time is right now because in St. Louis City, okay, and St. Louis County, the money is available right now. And so it's almost forcing these developers to look north, okay, and put money into programs now. And what the mayor also did with CDA, he kind of dismantled the whole organization right now, which is a great thing. And now she's sorting out from people who were scratched, who live in most of these communities, their own selves. I have family members there, and they are dedicated to improve their neighborhood, which is something how that's a good thing. No matter what their neighborhood, they go back there. Oh my God! And nothing in St. Louis, which I hate all the time. We always destroy our neighborhoods. We tear down. We have some of the best big houses in the whole country, in the world here in St. Louis. We used to have, I should say. And our bricks we had in St. Louis were wanted around the world.
Yeah, that's right.
Because that's why they tear them down, because they can sell the bricks.
Right, because it's still valuable.
The other time, people tear down a house for the bricks. I just give me the bricks, okay. Back in the day, when I was around that industry, a pound of the bricks would go for $500. You know what I'm saying? And you look at a whole 3-story house, those are a lot of bricks.
Yeah,
a lot of bricks. So right now, okay, I know that we have some successes, okay, because we have several branches right now. Some of the banks have some black CEOs. How's that working out right now for you guys to get some people in the leadership?
Ask the question one more time. I'm sorry, it's a little loud where I'm at.
Okay, how have you guys been successful in getting some new blacks in leadership in the banking industry in St. Louis?
Oh yeah. So absolutely, that's a good question. So if you notice, Midwest Bank, which is a bank that's really out of Lee, May, and South, well, they have a branch now off of Martin Luther King at Friendly Temple, and they also have a branch in Paysdale in conjunction with that's right, in conjunction with 24-1 and Chris Cray Myers and those people and so their CEO is the first black CEO of a bank in a local bank. Orv Kimbrough came from United Way, and that was in part due to the influence that Sleeper had as far as encouraging them to actually have minority representation in senior leadership, and so they went for it all the way. They decided to go for the CEO, so that's amazing. That's awesome. And Orv is pretty committed. He's pretty committed as far as black business loans and opportunities to grow the housing market. And matter of fact, he's been chatting with me about possibilities of finding ways to support other banks who would use diverse appraisals and not just use, companies that are that have a track record of doing lowball appraisals in North St. Louis and North St. Louis County. So I'm pretty excited about that, because that by itself is one of the policies that banks have internally that nobody can really change, but you can publicly shame them. And so I appreciate the fact that Orv Kimbrough is bringing, Midwest Bank to bear in that market to also have influence on other banks. So yeah. So you start to see that, like Simmons Bank has got, they're out of Arkansas, but they've got a big, huge presence in St. Louis now because they bought Reliance Bank, and Clayton Evans is one of their vice presidents over there. Yep. So, and in fact, their main VP in Little Rock, so African American woman named Marty North, and she really brought them up to speed as far as being able to do banking in a city like St. Louis or Kansas City, as far as products that we need. And Marty North is making it happen. I'm telling you. So she's working with Clayton Evans here in St. Louis, and so there are some banks. The Midland States Bank, David Noble is heading up their community efforts, and he's an African American that used to be with Midwest Bank, and he's a big wig. He's doing it at Midwest Bank, and they're one of the banks, even though they're out of Northern Illinois, but they're one of the banks in St. Louis that's got those home improvement products. One of the best. In fact, they can give you $10,000 at something like 2.8%, and no second on your house for you to be able to. It might even go up to $15,000, and for you to put a new roof on, or a new HVAC, or new AC, or do an extension on the patio. They can do all that. Brand new garage,
The basic stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. And so that's Midland States Bank. So, and like I said, they have African American leadership now too. So those are three banks that are an example here locally, even though two of them, one's out of Arkansas, one's out of Northern Illinois, but the one locally is out of South County, Lee May, and that's Midwest Bank. So there is some change going on, and slowly but surely, as far as leadership.
Amen.
One of the things, that I know, I was at Clayton, when he first came to St. Louis, because he's over just in Petersburg for a while. We had a branch of some bank had a branch over there, and he now he fell in love with my wife's cooking over there. But no, I applaud the banks, that are right now are going down. But my question is, how many black appraisals are here? I know the one company down around Netherfield. Any other black appraisals that's out here nowadays?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the question again. I'm sorry.
Are there any black appraisals in the industry right now?
There are a few. The issue is getting on the call list for the banks, right? Because most of the time, when you are doing appraisals, it's the bank that orders the appraisal or the mortgage company. And so, and there's places that move a lot of mortgages in North City and North County. But the issue is getting them to put the African American appraisal companies on their list of who to call, right? Because right now, unfortunately, there's way too many on the list that continue, and I think there's some complicity there. I think there's banks who want appraisals on the list that are going to devalue some of the properties. We've seen some of that stuff, and so that's the kind of thing that we need to be exposing, and we are starting to expose publicly about any bank that does that consistently uses appraisers who devalue property in North City, and especially when you can find an appraisal out there that comes much closer to the real value. But then this bank comes up with something that's $50,000 less every time.
Yeah.
And so that $50,000 is killing us. It's killing us.
Yeah. Well, that was all the investment you hope you got out of your house. Okay.
Yeah, come on. Right.
That's me for real. But we are so happy now to be joined by President and CEO, Mr. Chucky Bow. Chuck, how you doing, Chuck?
I'm fantastic. I'm doing well.
And we talked
good afternoon to everybody.
All right.
Hey, Chuck!
Okay, we're talking to Will Jordan. Okay, he's headed a company with an organization called EHOP, Equal Housing Opportunity Commission, like a better commission. Okay, and he's been around there for 20 years. And we came in on the conference. Also, I'll tell you, I'm happy to say that he's agreed to join the Missouri Mexican Conference also. You know, and one thing we were doing, we're going to create.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
Okay, we're going to create a regular committee. But anyway, Chuck, that's my wheel has been spaying us about some of the problems, okay, with people, with blacks and redlining and problems with housing, you know, in the St. Louis area, you know, and I'm happy to report, Will, that I may send you a copy of an email that I got from Chuck this week, okay, telling about some movements that we have had this week on a national level that may involve some things. Am I right, Chuck?
That's right.
So if you're so kind, Chuck, tell us about that press release you put out. Tell us about that, please.
We announced the formation of an alliance with the National Business League, and the alliances we announced the name and the formation of the new organization. It's called the National Alliance for Black Business.
Okay.
And the reason that we aligned is that the National Business League is the brainchild of Booker T. Washington.
Oh, yeah.
And it is the teachings and the studies that he put together as he created Tuskegee Institute. He then came with an economic development agenda for African American communities. And out of that came many of these organizations that we have today, such as the National Bar Association, the National Medical Association.
Yes.
And, all those came out of this thing. So we were looking at the current state or disposition that we have as general black communities, but really our belief is that they're centered in the economic energy or resources within that community. And we find it's the same thing globally, that a community or a country or a city or a tribe is striving for ethnic and racial equity or rights. But if you don't have any money, you really are always behind the advocacy or lacking in some way to where you're checked. You're kept in a box or a barrel, as they like to say, of what you can or can't do. And so if you're, they used to say barefoot and pregnant, but if you're ignorant, broke, unemployed, you really are like just, it's like, but we're going to give you some Velveeta cheese. We're going to give you some welfare, and you can take that. And you can survive, but your quality of life and what happens, and then all of a sudden they decide that they're going to change your rights. This evolution that we've gone through from the Civil Rights era that led to the 1964 Civil Rights Act to these things, and then to this day and age, and here it is in 2022, and many of those basic things that were so dearly fought for and lobbied and advocated on behalf of are quietly being eroded or rolled back.
That's right.
And I was on a call earlier today with some gentlemen that were concerned that this thing that happened with the Supreme Court on Roe versus Wade and abortion was only the tip of the iceberg, because the people in the legal system, the legal world, they know like what's headed towards the Supreme Court. So when it gets on the circuit court and the dockets, and they're saying, so, we need to be aware and pre-active or proactive versus reacting, that civil rights is on the agenda. And particularly it relates to the economic side of it as it relates to black business.
Yes.
And then some of these things like the 8A program and some of these other things, they're getting ready to start rolling that back.
Yes.
And so they were saying that, we've got to be concerned. And I believe when I tuned in, when I first came on, I think what I was hearing was what I would say might have to do with what we called redlining.
Yes.
And banking industry, the insurance industry, and one of the key tools of gentrification certainly is when you start talking about those property appraisals.
Yes.
Yes.
You know, so we're all on the same page, but we're sounding an alarm. You know, everybody better wake up, pay attention, because this thing is moving. It's happening right now. And so they look to people like ourselves that are here now and say, well, what do we do? What should we do? Well, the number one thing we gotta stop doing is just giving away our vote, and then not holding anybody accountable for that's a societal equity. Our vote and our dollar spend. We spend $1.6 trillion are spent by the black community.
We are the consumer economy.
Amen.
We are the consumer economy.
If we stop paying their vote, go broke.
Come on. I'm telling you, if we ever decide not to spend money, the whole country will shut down.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, that's the best vote we may have, right there. You know,
it's been done. It's been done. Y'all know, okay, in segments, okay, and when it was done, it was proved to be successful.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not that. It's that one thing, okay. It's like your car runs on gas, okay, where the economy runs on money. And one of the things in our black community, okay, getting black businesses into the black community, get financing for that. That's the thing I hear you ever talk about black businessmen go someplace, open up a business in the black community, they can get financed unless they got some money of their own selves. But then again, when they get up there, they can't, they have a lot of problems because they can't compete. That's why we have food deserts.
Yes, yes.
And I know that's not something that's here in St. Louis, but that's around the world, really, but especially in this country. That in most cities right now, in our black community, they are. I said people of color, not just blacks. They're people of color. People know that's not a means for like a better description.
Yeah, I didn't complete the thought of the initial question you asked. Is like about this alliance and what we're doing.
Please go ahead.
These are all elements of what we're doing. We gotta identify these things and pull them together. And one of the key things we're going to do is we're going to have a report card, a scorecard. And that scorecard is going to say the state of black business. And a lot of that has to do with, you know how you have dangling participles or loose threads and you pull it there. So if Forbes magazine, the business magazine, comes out and says, oh, wow, they pledged $40 billion or $50 billion or $100 billion, whatever it was, as a result of the George Floyd showcasing of systemic racism, and these companies pledged all this money, but yet almost $40 billion of it has yet to left their bank account.
Yeah,
it hasn't gone anywhere. So that's where we come back with the scorecard and say, well, these companies have said this. They're trying to keep that 1.6 trillion in play. And so we're saying, yeah, but look at we're 20%, 30% of the population, and we're not even getting 0.5% of procurement opportunity or spend back with our suppliers.
Yes.
And that's where that community thing comes in. I mean, we're starting looking at, why do we have food desert? Why is there no groceries? Or why is the quality of the products in those stores and however they get it? I mean, we were hearing about a produce food truck that didn't have anything on it but vegetables and things like that. And some lady that was at our lunch, and she was talking about she made like $5 million just driving into the hood with produce and selling it. That it's a business model that proves these groceries would be successful.
Wow.
But what would be stocked in them and how? And then on the other hand, we got black farmers that are going out of business because they have top quality produce. The lettuce, tomatoes, corn, whatever it is. They grow on hybrid stuff that doesn't have the industry chemicals.
Right.
And all the pesticides and all the other stuff, or the genetically modified kind of things, and so they're being kept out of the marketplace.
Yes.
So going back to that Booker T legacy, that we're promoting doing business with ourselves, with each other, globally. And if you looked at it, so that's okay. So let's talk about that just a brief moment. So if we buy into this conversation that they so often tell us about, well, you're only this and you're only that, talking about America and how we're somewhat in this barrel or in this politically controlled environment, then okay, so what happens if all of a sudden now we got the same people sitting with us at the table, that we all look alike, we're all the same, except they live in Colombia or Brazil or Africa, and all of a sudden that 30 million just became 200 million. Or we add Nigeria and Africa, and all of a sudden it's 400 million. It starts getting real interesting because that 1.6 is only American, Afro-American dollar spent. So this is Congressional Black Caucus Week in D.C., and I had to tell you, I was blown away by how many people came from Africa and from Latin America. And my boys, my buddies, my partners from Colombia all showed up and said, yeah, we're here. They came walking into the luncheon, and I was like blown away that they actually were here and made it, but they were here in force. They had the Mayors Association. We had the ambassador to the African diaspora, which is a whole nother thing. There is actually an organization based in Ghana that is just dealing with the diaspora. And they were able to create this and develop it because they had the year of return several years ago, where they did a tourism marketing strategy that brought folks back to Africa, coming back through the door of return. That there was a door of no return, and they walked back through it and say, we're just smashing that thing that's been there since the beginning of slavery, where they kidnap you, hit you over the head, drug, do whatever, and drag you through the door of no return, chain you, shackle you, put you on a ship, and you were out of there. Your family woke up the next day and said, well, where's Johnny? Where is he? He's gone. You'll never see him again. And somebody said, well, they put him on one of them ships, and he's gone.
Okay, Chuck, let me cut you off right here, Chuck. Now, Chuck, you mentioned about Colombia, okay, about all the rails came in. Tell me about how you were using Colombia, okay? How you was invited to speak, and Chuck I'm going to tell the story about Chuck. He was out at the airport, getting ready to go to the airport to go someplace else in Colombia. You got a call in the hotel that you had come down, that you had come to a meeting. And little did Chuck know, I'm sitting the stage with Chuck here, little did he know, okay, Chuck had his tennis shoes on, and he walked in this room, okay, it was all these mayors, okay, he was down in Colombia there, and you was the guest speaker. All right, Chuck?
Yeah, you remember so many details too. I don't like telling all these details quite like that.
But it's
real. It's real. Let me set the stage.
Go ahead. Come on.
This is Bogota, Colombia, and Bogota is like 8,600 feet in altitude. Mm-hmm. And that's like, if Denver's a mile-high city, and what is that, 5,280 feet or something like that, just around 6,000, and if you've ever been there, so, in sports, they always talk about, well, you got to adjust to the climate and all that. Well, in Bogota, you get off a plane and you start saying, I'm a little short of breath, or am I having a heart attack, or what's going on? I feel it. What's going on? And so you start walking, and they walk a lot, they're healthy and all that, but the people there are used to it. So I'm headed to the airport. I've been there about 3 days. I've done everything y'all wanted me to do. Let me please get out of here, because the next city I'm going to is called Cali, and it's like Los Angeles. Just palm trees, the sun's out. In Bogota, it's like overcast, drizzly. You need a jacket. It rains every afternoon a little bit. It just gets wet. you know, and you like, I said, let me get out of here. So I'm like, man, I'm done, right? I did everything. And I see you guys in the next city. We're going to another summit meeting in Cali. And they're like, no, wait a minute. You can't go yet. You can't leave. We we need you at this meeting. I'm like, come on, guys, another meeting. Didn't I do them all? You know, I met the vice president. I went to the inauguration. Well, whatever you need. Okay. No, man, it's very important. I said, well, you know, I'm belligerent. I'm tired and I'm evil. And I couldn't sleep well and all that. And I'm like, well, what happens if I don't show up? I said, oh, no, it'd be very bad. I said, all right, so where is it? You give me the address, tell me what to do. He says, no, we're going to come get you. We're going to meet you, and we're going to take you there. Man, we go down, and it's where the presidential offices are. It's their Congress. I mean, it's their executive offices. And there's all this security and all that, and I'm wearing, like, blue jeans, tennis shoes, sport coat. I'm getting ready to go to the airport. And they take me through, and I did not have any preparation or anything other than you're going to speak to some of our political leaders. Man, they walk me in after we go through all this security, go through all this stuff, and it's the day after the inauguration, and everybody in the whole country is there at the Capitol looking to plead their deal, set their proposal for their community, their tribe, their group of people, and whatever. And it was really interesting to see, because there they have a lot of different tribes, and they're indigenous people, you know, so they're Andean as well as Afro-descendant, and there's even different segments of that. So I go in there, they walk me in this room, and I'm looking around, and it looks like just like the Senate or the House. And I'm talking about one of those kind of oval or half oval shaped things, like a semicircle, and there's all these overstuffed leather chairs and microphones on each desk, and it's just like Congress. And I'm saying, you guys want me to speak up here? And say, no, yeah, but don't worry, we got an interpreter for you. And I'm like, what am I talking about? No, you're talking the same thing you always talk about. They want to hear about the economic development. They want to hear about the collaborative effort. They want to hear about what we are doing, and this is important. And so my friend is the former vice president of Costa Rica, who's the first black woman to be vice president in Latin America in 500 years. And she's speaking, and she's like this dynamic speaker. And every time she talks, people are standing up and down and standing ovation and applauding and ready to go out and march down the street. And they got these big TV screens in there, and they got a camera up there micing me up, and I got a microphone. I got a translator over here. And I look out at these people, and I go, oh, my God. This is the real. This is real. These are the real people. They're not politicians. They're the mayors. They're the leaders of these other tribes and all these places that have come together. And you know how you put somebody on stage like a singer in a movie or something like Whitney Houston or something, they got maybe like a little stage fright, and they pause, and it's quiet. It's that you almost want to call it dramatic pause. And boy, you can hear a pin drop, and I'm looking around at these people, and they're going to live and die on every word that comes out of my mouth. And I said, man, just keep it simple. Just get to the point. Just say what it is. And so it turned out to be a speech, but my speeches are kind of like talks. I tell them what we're doing and how we're doing it. I say that for so many years, we've all strived throughout the diaspora, and we find that we all have the same challenge. It's the same issue. It's the same thing. You look to America to be the leader, but I can't lie to you. We got the same challenges, and we always have them come back. We think just when the 1964 Civil Rights Act was put into legislation, put into law, we got to come back and fight for every little detail of it. So it turned out to be a huge success. Yeah, I did get a standing ovation, and yeah, I did get a ton of emails and phone calls and different things like that of people saying they want to meet with me. And to this day, I had a guy. I'm leaving the luncheon and going somewhere, I get a text message from somebody that's on the human rights side, and that's part of the background in Colombia. They've been in civil war for 50 years. Over 1 million people have been killed in this civil war, and they had guerrillas, and of course it was different there because the Pablo Escobars of society, the narcos, they call them the narcos society, the narcos economy, they outfunded the government's military. So they had armies like you wouldn't believe. They were equipped with who knows what. They had tanks and submarines too. And the Civil War there was like none you've seen because they were so well funded.
Let me cut you off, okay? So now on Tuesday, the Tuesday had the conference there, okay? You told about Booker T. Washington, okay? How they can tell us about how we're going to go forward here. I just had to tell that.
Folks, we got 4 minutes.
I know
please.
you. I heard you, Scott.
Thank you.
And so we're going to come out with a report card. We're going to galvanize our communities, our all those national organizations that were birthed out of Booker T's teachings and philosophies, like I mentioned, the National Bar Association, National Medical Association. We're bringing everybody together. We've got 200 organizations that have already committed to become part of the alliance, and we're going to come with the state of black business. And our part is business, but out of that we'll support the lawyers or whatever, all the different other organizations. So you're going to hear a lot more about that.
Congratulations, Chuck, that your leadership for the National Team Congress. I commend you, and I'm happy that you're not breaking new ground, going in new directions, And we get a chance to have this every Saturday. We get a chance to begin to listen. So this is a circuit board, and I know you guys are going to be working good together because Will Wright is an attorney himself, and also the pastor, and also working with the chaplain here, but he also is very much deep in the real estate business as far as discrimination, and that's one of the things that most people understand that when they get into finance, right, Chuck?
Absolutely, we need more people like Will to engage with us. And Will, thank you for taking the time out to be here and to tell us your perspective and what's going on from your viewpoint. We're here to support. We look forward to working with you.
And I look forward to working with you, and thank you so much. I appreciate your leadership. We need leadership on all ends, and we're together, two of us, a twofold easily broken.
Amen.
Come on. But see, Chuck, I'm happy to say that that speech you gave in Colombia, okay, that's why they came in force to the conference.
Yeah, we got good support. Thank you, everybody, for listening and tuning in, and we look forward to continuing the dialogue.
Okay. Well, right now,
Amen.
Well, Chuck, right now, you got a couple seconds there, so right now, tell us the things that how, first of all, we got some websites coming up. Our website is under construction right now for the NASA. Also, with Missouri, we're looking very much forward to our blockchain academy coming out. So we got a lot of things coming out and go to the new year. I'm right, John?
Absolutely. We got a lot. We're going to announce a trade mission November 6th to Costa Rica. We've got a lot of international business development. We've got a program on government contracting. There's going to be some stuff about capital access, particularly for acquisition of real estate, commercial and residential.
And Will, I look forward to you being involved with that, Will.
All right, me too.
Well, we're going to keep this in the time, man. So I want to thank everyone. By the way, we can see live on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and also this program will be rebroadcast on tomorrow at 1 o'clock to 3, and also again on Wednesday at 1 to 3. So I want to thank everybody for making us a success. Chuck, we've been doing this since 2015, right, Chuck?
That's right.
And we just not getting good at it. So I want to thank Scott. I want to thank Will for being a part of our Women for the Chamber. Thank you for Scott for being part of the real estate business now. Okay, I want to thank Rev for being our spiritual leader. And I want to thank all of us, our listeners who around the world. My name is Ira, folks. This is Lunch with Consumption of Commerce. You can find on Facebook. And all those things. They can have a great weekend. Be safe. I just be safe.
Amen.
Amen.
Peace.